Hey, this is Brandon McManus, Denver Broncos Super Bowl champion, and you're listening to The Scoop on OwlScoop.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Scoop, Season 5, Episode 11. I'm John DeCarlo. With me again, Kyle Gauss and Graham Foley. We have a lot of stuff to get to today, some good stuff for you. How you guys doing?
Doing well, John. Doing well.
Thanks for the flat response. Really appreciate that.
I think I had a little bit of joy in my voice. You sound like somebody just told you your cat died.
I don't have a cat.
I feel glad to be here. How you doing, Graham?
Wow, that was
I'm
a
allergic
lot.
to cats.
I think this is a pretty normal Scoop beginning.
Not a cat guy.
I'm not a cat guy either. I mean, I don't
cat
dislike cats, but like I'm a dog person for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
allergic.
Dog on the motor. What?
I'm allergic to cats. I can't say I dislike them, but
My mom said we'd have 2 cats if she weren't allergic.
I think I openly dislike them.
No
People
boy.
are like, oh, like I don't see the value in them. Other than maybe like a barn cat that like does whatever it wants.
I see it in college when you don't want to have to walk a dog, but you want to have like a little animal to be running around.
Oh
with
yeah, I
you.
guess I had a street cat in college, Jeffrey with one eye. So maybe
Oh,
he was fine. He was also a soldier. He got run over by a car and still lived.
is that how the eye was lost?
I assume. I don't think. I doubt that there was something went to like a vet and took it out. I assume he lost it in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
My man. So how we doing?
I think I remember you talking about
Yeah,
this.
Jeffrey. He was awesome.
Dude,
Great
wh-
cat. He kept trying to get into the house. I think the sorority girls that lived there the year before like fed him and let him come into the house, and absolutely not. It was more worms than cats.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Jesus. Let's change the subject. This is depressing. I'm sorry.
I'm sure he's doing fine.
Well,
Statistically, he's probably dead.
Wow.
any,
Ever watch a movie too from like, or like watch Full House and be like,
Yeah,
oh, there's a
that kid's
cat.
31 now.
Anyway,
Oh, that
what-
dog's
The
dead.
dog's dead, yeah.
I think
That's
I
what
bring
I
that
would
up to
think.
Meg pretty often. I'm like, there's no way that dog's alive.
Yeah.
She's like, why would you bring that up?
oh.
I'm like, that's filmed in
Did you say you
93.
ever watch a movie or watch Full House?
I was,
Like, I watch like Comment in Full House.
you know how there's movies and then the one TV show is Full House.
Yeah.
So like Comment in Full House is like that dog's long gone. Right?
Yes, exactly. That's one that always comes to mind for some reason.
Yeah.
Hey, tell me some happy stories about your pets, so we don't end on.
Oh,
a
how about that?
depressing
I
note
went
like that.
home this weekend for the first time in a month, and Gracie's getting old, and she's kind of just been like quieter, not as excited to see me as normal. So I've been like disappointed with that. I opened the door and she leapt off the couch and ran to
Oh,
me.
that's
There you
good.
go.
And
There
she
you go.
doesn't jump anymore because she's like afraid to. Her leg, and I sat on the couch. She jumped onto the couch into my arms. Never happens anymore. We visited my grandma, and she like was in the hospital room, like under the bed, like all happy. And so it was a good weekend.
That's
Took the
good.
dog
Very
to the
happy.
hospital.
Yeah, it's more of like a nursing home, hospice
okay.
kind of
So
thing.
that's
So like they
enough,
let
okay.
pets, and she that's like she hangs under the bed. It's her favorite place.
Oh, that's nice.
Mhm.
That's a sweet image.
Yeah.
My dog is officially over his raccoon corpse-induced crapping, so now he's back to like normal diet and everything looks fine. But for a while,
Poor Riggs.
just straight blood for
Just
a while.
straight
Oh.
raccoon. Jeez.
Jeez.
Yeah, but he's good. It's a good dog.
What an opening this week.
Yeah.
What an opening.
I mean,
Should
as
we-
Rod Carey says, that ECU game feels like a lifetime ago. By the time you guys listen to this, it'll be 6 days ago.
Yeah. Yeah, so Temple did beat ECU. Have the homecoming game coming up this Saturday against a very good Memphis team that's 5-0, ranked 23rd in the AP poll, 20th in the coaches poll. We have an exclusive interview to get to for you guys with Quinton Rose, who was our guest on the Scoop this week. A lot of mailbag questions to get to, some recruiting news and developments on the basketball side of things. So let's wrap up conversation first about this ECU game. Temple improved to 4-1, won Thursday night on the road. Mixed in some Todd Centeo. Ramon Davis was, I don't know, I guess you could say his usual good self. He's having a heck of a freshman
It's been 5
season.
games. I don't know if you can say
Yeah, I
usual.
know.
Yeah,
That's
think
why.
he's
That's
still-
why I hesitated. But 24 carries, 157 yards, and a touchdown. Anthony Russo did not throw a pick. 23 of 34 passing for 208 yards.
Did have a strip sack.
Did have a strip sack.
Which I get that like he has to kind of probably get rid of that, and maybe they probably shouldn't even been passing there to begin with. But Isaac Board did not look good on that play.
No, he hasn't looked good in a couple weeks this season.
No, I thought
but-
he was pretty dominant against Georgia Tech.
Right. In Georgia Tech, he was good, but he's had a couple shaky games. But again, he is a true sophomore, so we'll get to that in a little bit. Brandon Mack and Isaiah Wright both went over 100 yards receiving. Again, they did have a slow start. You've got the 12 penalties, 5 of which gave ECU first downs, so the penalties are something they have to obviously eradicate. What stood out about that game to you before we get to what is a very good Memphis team?
I think it's pretty much what you would hope for on a road game against an improving ECU team. Like, they won pretty handedly. They got off to a slow start, but then dominated the second and third quarters. The late score by ECU in the fourth quarter is, I know it's over Harrison Ham, but they're just playing prevent defense there. They're just kind of mailing it in for the rest of the way. I think that fumble return for a touchdown at the end absolutely should have counted. I think no gambling related aspect. I think just legitimately that should have been a touchdown.
How in tune were the announcers with that? Like, oh my god,
that was so much fun to watch.
Websy, were you for or against that broadcast? I love it.
I think especially for Thursday night games, that's what you got to do. You got to make it weird. You got to make it fun.
Your Thursday night game, you're going up against game 1 in the NLDS. You're going up against Thursday night football. I think you have
Thursday night football.
I think you just have to be wacky with it.
And I think they were the perfect crew for that blackout for 30 minutes because they just kept talking and it was entertaining.
You didn't go to commercial. They didn't do anything. It was just this.
And I remember thinking like I should turn this off, and I was like, they're actually kind of entertaining me right now.
I like that a lot. I think McAfee's coming into his own on the sidelines with it. But no, I think it was a balanced offensive attack. I put out there that it's only the 4th time in Temple history that they've thrown for 250 and rushed for 230. I think they pretty much could do whatever they wanted on the ground. I think Ramon Davis and Jagger Gardner are starting to really come into being a force. I mean, I think we're really quick to give praise to Ramon Davis, and obviously, like, he rushed for 150 yards, like he's rushing for 100 yards a game as a true freshman. Jagger Gardner's playing pretty well.
Yeah, he is.
He's gotten better with his ball security. He's being able to give Ramon Davis snaps off. I think what we entered the year thinking might be a real question mark on this team has become the focal point of the offense.
Yeah, absolutely. The Todd Centeio thing. In favor of it?
Yeah, I think you're in favor for it just because going forward, other programs have to account for it.
Sure.
Like you kind of lost the surprise of it, and I don't know if maybe you rolled out that surprise during a game that you were always going to win. Like, they were pretty much always going to win that ECU game. I think going forward, like Memphis, like Mike Norvell's team is going to have to spend some time thinking about Todd Centeio this week, and that's true. And Todd, he looked fine. He looked good running the ball and designed runs. There's a reason he's the backup quarterback when it comes to throws. I know he went 4 or 5. Some of those looked ugly. Some of those against some better teams are going to end up poor. But I think it adds a different element to this offense. I think it's an element that Mike Uramovich and Rod Carey are comfortable implementing. It's something they did at NIU a lot. I think it's still very, very, very firmly Anthony Russo's job.
Sure, yeah.
I think that just adds another element. I think when you put up close to 500 yards of offense in the conference game and win on the road on a Thursday on a short week, then you got to sometimes do things like that. And I'm for it. I don't think you want to get into a habit with it of, well, they start off every second quarter with the Todd Centeio drive. Right. I think you just need to sprinkle in. I do like that. Like, you move to min, and I think at one point they faced 3rd and long, and Russo stayed on the sideline. I like giving him a drive to do it. I don't like when they're constantly running on and off in between plays on drives. I think that's confusing.
Yeah, I don't know that it even really has to. I mean, we'll see what happens Saturday against Memphis. I don't know that it has to be. Not that you're saying that it has to be a surprise.
I'm saying it has to be.
You're saying it has to be a surprise.
No.
I don't know that it has to be. I mean, I think it came at the right time for them. I mean, obviously they had leaked out to a couple reporters. They told the broadcasters obviously that this was something that Temple, that they were planning to do. But I mean, even if they do it Saturday against Memphis, it's like you said, it's something that Mike Norvell and his staff have to account for and spend time watching film on. And the one thing Memphis hasn't done particularly well this year is defend the run. Yeah. So
I would say they're almost bad at that.
Yeah. So
granted, they played Navy.
They did play Navy, yeah, which also could bump their their pass defense stats, numbers a little bit.
Dual-edged sword, John.
A dual-edged sword or double-edged sword?
Same thing.
Same concept.
Same thing.
It's called synonyms. Yeah. They're when words mean or different words, but they mean the same thing.
Your face. Beat you with it.
I love you like a brother.
Me too. I mean, I love you like a brother. Anyway, that was awkward. We couldn't even nail that exchange like there. We love Graham too.
Hey, like an adopted son.
Yes. How old are you?
I'm 21.
I mean, you could be my son. I'm 43.
Couldn't be mine.
Yeah, probably
9. That would make some headlines.
No,
I'd be on the front page like the Daily Mirror.
Right.
American lad has boy.
Oh, man. We're really exploring the studio space today. Anyway, the Todd Centeio thing, again, it did help him. They did get off to a slow start. I would agree with you. I don't think he's been terrible throwing the ball. It's a small sample size.
If Anthony Russo went down tomorrow and they had to run the offense with Todd, he'd be fine.
Yeah. The penalties.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't there today. I was over, and we'll get to this in a little bit. I was over talking to Quinton Rose today earlier after basketball practice. Was not at Rod Carey's press conference, one of those things people will say, "Oh, ask the coaches the tough questions about the penalties. Why are they committing them? Why are they committing them?" But yeah, of course we can ask about it till we're blue in the face.
Sure.
We'll ask about this coming Saturday. They just have to not commit them. I mean,
Right.
they have been undisciplined. I mean, some of the targeting calls have been tough, but on last Thursday, 5 of them gave. I mean, really, that just kept ECU in the game early
Yep.
on. The TV crew said it. I mean, Temple was so clearly the more superior team in terms of just. I mean, Ehlers was pretty much running for his life on almost every play. Now he's athletic enough, like. Was hitting the
extended a lot of
perimeter of the
plays,
field, was extending some plays, which is kind of part of their game plan. I'm sure again their staff's smart. They knew they were going to be kind of overmatched, but just giving them a couple of first downs on penalties is bad. It's one of those things you can ask about, but they're like, yeah, we just have to be smarter. But obviously, if you commit 12 penalties Saturday, you're done. You're not. Well, who knows? But I would say you put yourself in real deep trouble if you commit 12 penalties against Memphis.
I feel like when you ask somebody, like, well, what can you do to fix that? It's, a lot of times it has to be like a technique thing. This isn't a technique thing, right? Like Dana Levine said afterwards, like, hey, we were just too excited. We were too excited. We knew we were going to dominate their offensive line. We were too excited about it.
Jumping a little early.
You're in a Thursday night game. It's actually a pretty good crowd. They're all dressed in black. Somebody's doing a drug deal on the sideline. It was phenomenal.
The greatest conference.
You technically cannot say that. You don't know if it was.
What are you talking about? They could be buying Tylenol. Tylenol's a drug. What do you mean I can't say that?
You don't know that was actual.
I didn't say people's names or whatever.
We are a website.
Yeah.
There's no FCC.
The FCC's not coming down on me, John.
You didn't know
I can
that.
do whatever I want. Anyway.
That tweet did pick up a lot of traction. That
Yeah,
was pretty
exactly.
funny.
People love exchanges on the sideline. So they were a little excited.
What was your response? Don't ever change.
I said, I don't care if the NFC East extends an invitation. Temple could never leave this conference. But I would just say that I think it's something that was an excitement situation. I can't imagine they're going to have as many offsides going forward. But yeah, it's literally probably one of like 3 reasons that ECU was anywhere close to in that game.
And the one encouraging thing is that they've already had a game in which early self-inflicted errors let a team that's probably not as good as them come back and win this game. And, they didn't let it get away from them early. They did respond to that, but it was just because they were significantly better than ECU. I don't expect it to keep going forward.
So let's look at this Memphis team. They are, again, 23rd in the AP poll, 20th in the coaches poll, 29th nationally in scoring offense. They're averaging a shade under 37 points a game. They beat Ole Miss 15-10 in their opener. Since then, their schedule hasn't been too difficult. They beat Southern 55-24, South Alabama 42-6, Navy 35-23 in their conference opener, and then beat Louisiana Monroe 52-33 last week. They're 27th nationally in scoring defense, allowing a little bit more than 19 points a game. But as we pointed out, they're 93rd nationally in rushing defense. So they're they're allowing almost 180 yards per game on the ground. So you can run on them.
Yeah, that's not just a Navy thing. I mean, ULM rushed for 256 yards. University of Louisiana Monroe put up 575 yards against this team. I think this is a game when you look at the Memphis defense, it's not a stout unit. I think you can absolutely run against them, and that's something that Temple's been doing really well lately.
Joseph Dorcius is a good player. He's a good player. Blake Sanchez, their leading tackler. Dorcius has 7 tackles for a loss. But again, I mean, I don't think the game plan is going to change much here. Running the ball. If you air it out on their pass defense has been good. Again, we'll see how good, again, a couple of those games, or at least like the Navy game, they're not throwing. I mean, Navy throws it more than
they used to.
Yeah. But I mean, is it that, I don't want to say is it that simple, but is it that simple to stick in your game plan to winning this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think this offense, as we've come to know it, it starts with the run, right? I don't think that's a situation where it's like Steve Adazio where you're only going to throw the ball 8 times a game, but I think they want to run to set up the pass. And I think as long as Ramon Davis and Jagger Gardner are getting that push, I mean, this offensive line has been pretty dominant in run protection. When you looked at some of those lines against ECU and against Georgia Tech, like the offensive line was getting such a push that it was almost easy for Ramon Davis to kind of slide through. So I would still expect that against Memphis. Like I said, I don't think it's going to – I think Anthony Russo's still going to throw the ball 30 times. I just think that they're going to run the ball 40, 45 times during that time.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to, can Russo make the right decisions in the right times? Can he not force a play? If he is going to have to be forced in the throwing downs. And this defense can definitely pick off the ball, force turnovers. So they're definitely going to be running the ball more, but it's really about if Russo can make the right throws.
The bigger concern would be on offense. Kenneth Gainwell's a really good back, 620 yards, 6 touchdowns, averaging 124 yards a game. And they've been known for just big plays, explosive plays this year. He has a season-long 75-yard run, had a 68-yard touchdown run last week. I guess it's Kylan Watkins has 214 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. He has a long of 72 yards. Their quarterback's very good. Brady White, former blue chip recruit at Arizona State, transfers to Memphis when Mike Norvell helped get him over. He's 7th nationally in passing efficiency, 13th in completion percentage. He's completing 71.7% of his throws. So you're dealing with a really good quarterback there who threw for almost 3,300 yards and 26 touchdowns. Again, just 9 picks last year. So the offense is the tough thing to stop here. Rod Carey did mention in yesterday's call, American Athletic Conference call, we've asked about Randall Jones. It sounds, again, there's a chance there that like someone like Randall Jones could redshirt. We had questions about, as Kyle reaches for can you actually grab me one of those, by the way?
We're not as close to the mics anymore, so maybe people didn't pick up on that.
I was going to say, you probably
until you drew attention.
You probably
to it.
couldn't
I
hear
don't know.
until you said
We're
it.
eating some gummy shavers. So when I was talking with
Gummy
them,
savers?
half full mouth here. It sounds like Linwood Crump might play this week,
Maybe.
which would potentially give them a lift. Now Graham is just opening candy under the table.
I thought that might stop the noise.
Maybe it did. Who knows?
That's how noise works.
Yeah.
It just goes around the table.
It goes through solid objects? I had no idea.
Anyway, if there's a week that you would want Linwood Crump back, it might be this week.
Yeah.
Again, Braswell had played well, kind of came back to earth a little bit last week. Again, ECU is going to throw a lot to try to scrap and get some yardage. But if he comes back again, that gives you a bit of a lift there against the quarterback again, who's really, really good. But that would be, I mean, again, they throw it and run it really, really well. Play with tempo. That's the biggest challenge right there. If you can just kind of contain them, this isn't going to be a game I think where you hold them to a couple touchdowns. If you do, then this defense is really, really legit.
Yeah, which I mean, I think it has a chance at. Like
Sure.
the stats back up that Temple's defense has a chance to be really
Sure,
legit.
sure, absolutely.
Like,
This
there's a
is a
reason-
really good offense.
No, I agree. But I mean, Temple's number 3 in the nation? Yeah, number 3 in the nation in passing defense
Right.
efficiency. Like they've really clamped down defensively. They've given up 1 touchdown pass, two or 3 touchdown passes all year. I think it's a situation where it almost is strengths against strengths. If this game's not into like the 30s, though, I'd be surprised. I think Temple's going to have to score the ball against them. I think they're going to be able to score the ball. I mean, ULM put up 33 against them. Southern, which can you tell me Southern's conference? I don't know. It's somewhere in the FCS. Other than that, they put up 24. I think teams have really been able to move the ball against them, other than Ole Miss for whatever reason. So I would expect this to be not necessarily a shootout, but I expect a fair amount of offense in this game.
Now I'm trying to think of what conference Southern's in. Is SWAC? No.
I mean, yeah, they could be SWAC. Are they SWAC? They're SWAC West.
Oh, good guess. On
What's
my
their
part.
mascot?
I have no clue.
Jaguars.
I could have sat here all day and not guessed that.
Didn't Kendall go to Southern?
No, not that Southern.
Really?
There's one in. I think for whatever reason, I think she went to a different Southern. Well, where is Southern?
Baton Rouge.
Oh, maybe she did. Okay,
All right. See,
We'll ask her.
I know more about our interns than you do.
stop. We'll ask Kendall next time.
Some would
we
say I'm
talk
the
to her.
backbone of this organization.
Kendall she talked to Sean Bradley today's practice, so we'll have a video coming up that you guys can check out on the site this week with Kendall talking to Sean Bradley, even Temple linebacker Sean Bradley, who, like anyone else on that linebacking core, is going to have their hands full again on Saturday against a really good Memphis offense. Should we go to predictions?
Let's do it. I want to go last.
No,
Why? You always want to go last.
I always go
I
first.
wanna go
You say
last.
that, and I always
That's
go
not true.
first. Graham went last time because he left without
wasn't
doing
here.
it.
I texted you.
He left without doing it. You go first, Johnny.
You go first, Sean. So I'm still on the fence right now.
Ooh.
I'm just going to go with my gut when the time comes.
Knee-jerk gut reaction. I thought about this a couple times today while I was over basketball, and I couldn't stay on track with it because I was preparing for my interview with Q.
Okay.
As of now, I'm feeling a 37-33 Temple loss. I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game, a couple field goals. Temple's going to be driving late, and something's going to go
4
wrong.
field goals from Memphis or from Temple?
Potentially, yeah.
You think they're going to score 7 times, 3 touchdowns and 4 field goals?
Just
and
let
lose
me
that
finish
game.
this. And it's going to be late.
Or do they score 4 touchdowns, miss an extra point, so you have 27, and they hit 2 field goals?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
That's more plausible.
Go with that instead. They're going to be driving fourth down play, some sort of frustrating ball off fingertips type of thing. Could be swayed. You know, you haven't actually said this in a while, right? You haven't talked about last year. I feel like in the past couple seasons, you said I'm trending positive, trending negative, or whatever. Right now,
I'm a father now. I don't trend.
Are you a father?
Am I a father
Almost.
at conception? I think Meg's a mother at conception. I don't think I'm a father at conception.
I don't think either of you are a father or mother yet.
I would say Meg's a mother. She has a living thing. I think kicks her shirt open. I would say Meg's a mother. I'm not a father yet. But anyway,
you can still trend.
Interesting.
yeah.
I kind of feel like it's like you said. I think it's going to be a bit of a shootout, and Temple's going to be driving late in the game, and they're going to fall just short. I could feel differently about this in 2 days. This one
will.
I don't have a true gut feel on. Talk to me on Tuesday. I think I'm saying 37-33.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a strength-on-strength matchup, and I think turnovers are probably going to decide this game. I've been accused of being a homer sometimes, so I'm gonna throw the L out there in this one. I think it really could go either way. I'm going to say 38-34 Memphis.
I think the next 3 games determine the Temple season, right? You have Memphis,
Right.
you have at SMU, and you have UCF at home. I think in order for you to feel anywhere close to comfortable with their conference title hopes, they got to win 2 of those 3. UCF seems more beatable than it has in recent years. SMU seems a lot harder,
Especially on the road,
than it has in recent years. I think Temple is big picture enough to know that this is a must-win game if they want to win the conference title or even compete for the conference title. I think Memphis historically hasn't played great at Philadelphia. Granted, it's a sample size of 2. They got blown out the one year. The other year was arguably the worst game I had seen in a long time. They won 16-13 in a defensive rock fest.
Is that the year Nate Harrison dropped a deep
I believe
pass?
so, yeah. It was his first year
He's
at
doing
quarterback,
just fine now.
He's
but,
fine.
Yeah.
I think Temple wins this game. I think that this ends up becoming a game where Temple can run the ball against them. I think Anthony Russo starts to realize that he doesn't have to do everything. He realized he didn't have to do everything against ECU. They took what the defense gave him over and over again. I think Temple puts up a fair amount of yards in this. I think they put up a fair amount of points. I say they win this game 38-31 to get to 5-1, 2-0 in the conference, and keep themselves alive in the conference title fight.
Do they get ranked after beating him?
No.
you
You don't go from one vote to being ranked by beating the number 21 team. I would say they're like the 5th or 6th or 7th team out. If they go 3-0 in the next 3, they're the number 19 team. In the nation.
Easily, yeah.
I just don't know if they're going to go 7-1. If they go 7-1, I never want to sound like we're coming at our fans or our subscribers. I hate when a thread is about one thing and someone goes, "Oh God, but if only they had beaten Buffalo." That was a month ago. It's in the past. If they go 7-1, then you can say, "God, if only they had beaten Buffalo," because then it's like, "Oh crap, is this going to keep you out of a New Year's Day bowl, stuff like that?" That's fair. Right now, there's a lot more things that are going to go wrong in the season. A lot more things that are going to go right. Put the Buffalo game behind you.
That's a good way to think about it.
What was your final again?
38-31 Temple. I'll say Ramon Davis continues his streak of 100-yard games.
Anybody
I
in this
also
game?
will agree with that in the loss.
Who else has a big game in this game?
On Temple's side,
Yeah.
Quincy Roche.
I feel like you just randomly pick somebody like leaned in.
Ifan Majay.
We didn't talk about how about the one play he had where he
Yeah, the
looked
one
like
sack where he
Brian,
dropped like 18 yards on the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the Wolverine play where he
Yeah.
like dropped? Yeah.
Yeah, he's really looking at it. I honestly, I feel bad because I said this a couple weeks ago about Harrison Hand. If Ifan Majay keeps up the type of year he's having, he's not going to be here next year. If he puts up 25 tackles for a loss, he's going to leave.
We talked about this. Did you not kind of clown me a couple weeks ago when I said he looked like Temple's next great defensive tackle?
Yeah, because you were doing that off of 6 quarters.
He just has better
foresight
than you, I guess.
No.
Yeah.
Would you call me a soothsayer?
I am a man of science. You are a man of faith, and I have to wait for the data to extrapolate.
I had some data. It wasn't like completely basing it upon
Kind
nothing.
of rhyme. That kind of
Yeah,
rhyme.
I was gonna say, was that a rap
No.
line that I didn't know was
No.
before my time or something? Huh. That sounded like a white rap line.
Are you thinking of Vanilla Ice?
Yeah.
The best Vanilla
we're
Ice
keeping
song
it.
was not Ice Ice Baby. It was Ninja Rap when he did the rap song to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, I believe.
Have you ever seen the clip of Vanilla Ice talking about like when they eventually somebody said to him, because again back in the 90s there wasn't YouTube, wasn't as much stuff
There was
readily.
the box.
wasn't as much stuff readily accessible on the internet. And somebody eventually said to him, like, you know, this sounds exactly like Under Pressure from Queen David Bowie. And he goes, theirs goes dun 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 dun. Mine goes dun 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 dun. It's got that extra beat in there, man. I'm good. And people are like, okay.
Nope, never saw that.
Well, interesting. Vanilla Ice, also known as, what's his real name? Like Rob Van Winkle.
I think that's right.
I think he was actually performing a lot in Westchester.
Really?
And doing stuff. Now I think he like flips houses. Didn't he have a TV show where he like flipped houses or something like that?
I thought he had his demons.
I know these names, know a couple of the songs. Never bothered to look up the history of any of these guys.
All right, we're going to go to playing this interview with Quinton Rose. Sam Cohn is with us now. We walked into the palatial owlscoop.com studio.
Made it from class. Usually my teacher lets us out super early, but today she took us right up to the end.
What class is this?
History and Significance of Race in America.
Oh.
Okay.
But my professor is a big advocate of getting out early and letting everybody enjoy their afternoon.
But this was one day where it didn't happen.
Yeah, she had to take us right up to the end.
Yeah. Well, Sam's with us now.
Happy to be here, though.
Happy to have you here. We're going to have you guys listen to this interview with Quinton Rose. Talked to him earlier today at the Temple practice facility. The captains for the team have not been announced yet. I would imagine he's probably in the running to be a captain. We'll see. Obviously, if he has a great year this year, Temple could have a great year this year. Prior to or after a sophomore season, declared for the NBA draft, did that more so for the evaluation than anything else. Came back. The team went to the tournament last year, lost in the play-in round. So, again, some of the same themes persist here. This is a team that wants to get back to the NCAA tournament, wants to get to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament for the program for the first time since 2001. So talked to Q for about a little more than 15 minutes today. We'll play this interview for you. We talked a lot about just what he's seen from other guys on the team, where he's improved. He's going to be handling the ball a little bit more this year. Got into a lot of different things here. Asked him a few questions from you guys from the message boards who are subscribers. So we'll play this interview for you, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. All right, so Quinton Rose is our guest on the Scoop this week. Quinton, thanks for spending time with us, man. Appreciate it. First thing I want to ask is, you had foot surgery over the summer. What was it kind of like to just recover from that and get over that hurdle? And, I mean, obviously you've been practicing and feeling good now, but how did that come about? How did you get hurt, and what was the recovery like?
I got hurt initially. The initial injury was in practice, but I thought it was just a little like a bruise, so I kept playing, and then it got to like the midpoint of the season. And I got checked, and they said I had a fracture in my foot. So I decided to finish the season out, and I would just get the surgery after. And I did, like 2 weeks after the season ended. And the recovery process was rough because it was my first time ever being out from basketball for so long. And it was just hard. I was anxious to get back, so I was trying to rush, and that was bad. But the coaches were calm me down, we're in no rush. We need you in November, December, not in the summertime. So it was tough. I just got through it. I got through it somehow, but now I'm good and I feel better than ever. So
you were playing through a decent amount of pain, I would imagine, the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season?
It was probably about the last 2 months, but yeah. It was on. It wasn't consistent though. It was on and off. One day it would be worse than another day. Yeah.
Now, over the summer, you guys had the chance to go to the Bahamas, and you swept 3 games down there. What was that experience like, and how big was that for you guys, considering, Aaron's not a new face to you guys, but a new coach, the relatively new staff? And what was it like just in terms of like a bonding experience and just playing with some new guys?
The trip was fun. I feel like it was a success all around. We got closer as a team for sure. Basketball-wise, we went down there, we handled business. Worked on some things. It was good to get away from playing against each other, beating up on each other every day, and get a chance to play against some other competition. So that was cool. And the trip was just fun. We got better as a team, we got closer as a team, and closer with the coaching staff. So it was a success.
One of the things that people notice, and obviously I don't think you guys are going to be chucking up that many shots, but you guys really pushed the tempo, and that's something like Aaron's kind of talked about. Is that something, maybe not the amount of sheer number of shots, and a couple of those games was an insane amount of shots, but is that something you think you're looking to do a little bit more this year, is just push the tempo a little bit?
We're pushing the tempo, but not so much trying to get up shots quick. We're trying to just get it up the floor quick, put pressure on the defense, and that'll help us in the long run, getting better shots in our offense, and just moving it, playing, finding an open guy.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that some of the guys on the staff have told me is that you're going to be playing with the ball in your hands a little bit more. Mm-hmm. What's that been like? like, and what's that like just from, I mean, you've handled the ball before, and a lot of guys can get the offense started. It doesn't always have to be like the prototypical point guard, but what's that been like for you?
It hasn't been too hard because in high school and AAU, I used to play on the ball. Like, in high school, I played on the ball all the time. So, but it's a different game. College is much tougher. So, and I haven't really played on the ball that much in college. So it's been different. I've had guys like Nate. He's a great on-ball defender guarding me, so to help me get better every day. Lonnie pushes me. Josh even pushes me. So, I mean, at first it was tough, but I'm getting the hang of it now, just taking care of the ball, making the simple play. That's what Coach preaches.
When you declared before last season, to your credit, you basically said, "Hey, I want to get the evaluation." It's not like you ever came out and said, "Oh, I think I'm going to be like a top 5 pick and stuff." First of all, what was that experience like? Just getting the feedback from NBA people.
It was a good experience. It was eye-opening to see like the amount of work that those guys put into like what they do. Like even I would go to like say a workout and I would see like, for example, I went to Milwaukee and I saw the Greek Freak working out, and it was just like, wow, like that's how much time and dedication he puts into it. He was like the first one there, the last one to leave. So that was impressive, and it was real eye-opening, just showing me like the work that I have to put into what I do to get to that level.
Were there times, like, even though, like I said, you didn't come out and say, like, oh, I'm staying in the draft, or you were pretty honest about what you were doing, does that still, like, come with a little bit of pressure, like, once you declare it? Were there times maybe last season where did you feel like you ever put, like, a little bit of pressure on yourself after declaring, or was that not really a factor?
Yeah, but that could have, on my part, that could have easily been avoided. Like, I put the pressure on myself by paying attention to what people were saying on, like, social media, on Twitter, like, just looking at the negatives, looking at, like, taking the positives for too much and taking the negatives for too much, honestly. So that was on myself. I don't blame anyone but myself, because people are going to talk, people are going to say things, but I can't feed into it. And I think that's where most of my pressure came from, is just, like, the expectations of people that don't even know me, as opposed to the expectations of my coaches, my family, my teammates that like I know want the best for me. So yeah, that's the only pressure. That's the only reason the pressure really came. Just outside noise.
Is consistency a thing? Because there were so many times last year where you'd make a play and people would be like, "Wow, that's an NBA move," and then you have like the ups and downs of every like normal season. Does some of that come with pressure sometimes? Like, do you try to do too much, or is that just kind of just the normal ups and downs of a season?
Coming out of high school, I was like kind of like a flashy player, so like to the outside it might appear as I'm doing too much, but like really that's like sometimes that's just like how I play. So it's not necessarily trying to do too much, it's just like me being myself. But coaches helped me to like find the balance between me being myself and also like taking care of the ball, being responsible with it. So, and that comes with maturity and age, so I feel like I'm here. I reached that point where like I know like let's just make the simple play and let's make the winning basketball play.
You had a career high in steals last season with 71, so obviously you did I know sometimes coaches and players will say just, steals don't always equate to like big things, but you won the Davidson game from that, and it looks like you really learned how to play the passing lanes better. Well, can you talk about the growth that you made there last year and just where that comes from? Is it just time and repetition and everything?
It was just going into last season, Coach Dunphy preached to me, and the rest of the coaching staff, McKie as well, Coach Clark, those guys, they just preached to me that like I didn't use my size and athleticism as much as I should on the defensive end. And like we would watch film and it would just be like I should be much more active in this possession or here. And it was like, I don't know, it was tough to like see what they were saying. And when I finally realized, it was like I was overdoing it, like I was going for too many steals as opposed to like just being sound. But once I found the balance of like, well, I'm still working on it to this day actually. I find the balance of like being solid on defense, just staying sound, or like using my athleticism, going to get a steal. So it's a tough way to figure out which ones to go for, but I'm slowly finding it.
Actually, speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, you guys had Pepe Sanchez here recently at practice. You guys were too young to watch him play, but when he was here, granted, they were playing the matchup zone, but he was great at playing passing lanes and stuff and steals, and worked his way into the NBA for a couple years. What was that like, just learning from him and having him at practice a couple days ago? He
was here Saturday. He watched the scrimmage. It was pretty cool. McKie gave him an introduction, told us everything he was about. I knew a little bit about him, but not as much. I didn't know the impact that he had on the program until Coach explained it. But it's a good feeling to have those guys come back. Like, they were where we are now, and they were where we're trying to get to. And just to have them like give us words of wisdom and advice on trying to like reach our goals is great. And to see them still supporting, it just shows how important the team actually is.
Talk to me about what Aaron is like running the program now. He's not new to you. He's not new to a lot of the guys here, but what is he like now just as the guy who's like just commanding the whole thing in practices and everything?
One more time, you repeat that?
What has Aaron been like just as a head coach now that he is running the show? Are things any different now? What's he like as a head coach now?
It's much different. Practice is much more like up-tempo, high, like fast-paced, high energy. And, like, that's understandable because he's a younger coach and, like, he's been there, been in the NBA, so he knows what it takes. And it's just, like, I feel like it's easy to take in what he's saying, but just for the simple fact that he's been exactly where we're trying to go. He's been successful at each level. So, like, what he says is like, yeah, let's do it because, like, we know he wants the best for us and everything. So, I mean, but he's hard on us when he needs to be. Tough on us, like we run, there's punishment for everything. So I mean, he holds us accountable, so that's good. And he's big on off the court stuff as well, like making sure we'll be set after basketball. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been really good. I enjoy him as a coach.
A lot of the guys, it seems like, even just talking to guys like Jake and Josh and Damian over the summer, a lot of the guys start saying like, like they're talking about like culture and identity, and it kind of like comes up without even being asked about it. It seems like you guys are like that's more of a topic now. Is that kind of like more of a, not that Dunphy didn't talk about that stuff before, but it seems like that's like a point of emphasis that you guys are really talking about like culture and identity. Is that more of a thing now?
Yeah, we just want to be identified as a team that's like about their business. Like, you know, we come in, Coach always says we fly low, like we just stay to ourselves, keep staying the family, and we just come in, work hard every day, and then that'll translate into the games.
Tell me, a lot of people want to know about some of the new guys. What have you seen from Josh so far? I guess on the surface it looks like he could be that difference-making point guard, like drive and dish, like dynamic guy that you guys could really use. What have you seen from him so far?
Josh can do a lot for us. He's young, but he's still getting better every day. I mean, he's one of the most athletic guys I've ever played with. He's fast, can jump out the gym, can shoot it, can get to the basket. For him, it's just all about like maturity. Like, but that's gonna come with like just playing through his mistakes and stuff like that. So I enjoy playing with Josh a lot.
I know he's a little banged up right now, but Damian Dunn, another guy that people are really high on. What have you seen from him so far?
I like his game a lot. He's real poised. You can't really speed him up. He plays at his own pace, takes care of the ball. Mid-range games on 100, like he knocks those down. And he's physical as a guard. He's a bigger guard, so he can play on and off the ball, versatile. So, I mean, I think he'll help us a lot when he's back, too.
Another guy that people will see more of this year who could really give you a lift is Monty Scott. You've gone up against him in practice. He was a big scorer. Kennesaw. What could he do for you guys this year?
He's definitely gonna score the ball. He can put the ball in the hole at all three levels. It's quick, hard to guard. Like, he's a tough matchup for me in practice. So I mean, yeah, I think the fans will love him too.
And I know that they may not get a chance to play this year, but what have you seen from Jake Forrester and Ty Strickland, even just in practice so far as transfers?
Jake's a dog. Like, he runs the floor, plays hard, talks, real active. Love playing with him. And Ty, he's real skilled, can handle it, can shoot it, finish around the rim. So, I mean, all the guys can help us, but it's just a matter of those two getting their waivers. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they can do that.
You're entering the season with 1,343 career points. Again, you've never struck me as a guy who's about like a lot of individual accomplishments, but if this season goes the way it could for you, I mean, you're probably going to enter maybe like the upper echelon of like top 4, top 5 the scorers in program history, like guys like Deontay Christmas, Lynn Greer. I don't think anybody's catching your coach Mark Macon here. But what I mean, what would that mean to you just to be mentioned with those guys when it's all said and done?
It would mean a lot, especially because I see like the success that they've had after college. So I mean, it'll just like be placing myself for a good position once I leave here. But I mean, none of that matters if we don't win. That's number one on my mind right now. I want to get to the tournament, make some noise, win the American Conference. So that's my focus right now.
Do you guys talk about that a lot? I mean, I remember when Nate committed, and it sounded like he and JP and Dre were talking about that. Like, even he was aware. Like, this program has gotten to the tournament a lot, but they haven't been to the second weekend of the tournament since 2001. It's a long time. Is that something that really might sound like a simple question to ask, but is that something that you guys think about that really drives you guys?
Yeah, like, especially after last season, we got to the tournament and we lost our first game, but it's just like fire. Like, now it's just like, all right, what's next? Like, we need to get past that. We need to make some more noise than that. So it's like, we feel like we can compete with any team in the country. It's just like a matter of bringing it every day now, because what we do now will show in late March and early April.
What is different about the identity? I know the season hasn't started yet. If there is, you talked about that identity. What would be the difference in identity between this team now and this program as opposed to like where it was a year ago?
I think this year we're just defense oriented. Like everything starts with defense. Like we get stops. Coach preaches like if we get stops, we get to get out and have fun on the break and out in the open court rather than taking it out the net every time having to set up offense. That's not fun. Well, especially not like that wouldn't benefit this team with all the guys, the athleticism and the playmakers we have in the open court. I mean, getting stops, we got to secure it with a rebound, and we can get out in the open court and get easy buckets.
What's something that people, I mean, fans have seen you play a lot. What's something you think fans wouldn't know about you or would surprise fans about you? Or maybe even something, I like asking guys, like you guys get the same questions from us all the time after games. You know it, like there was a run here, a run there. What's something that you like to talk about that you don't always get the chance to talk about? Something that you do off the court that nobody really knows about?
That's a good question. I feel like the stuff I do off the court, like it'll probably be like everybody could guess it, like playing 2K,
Yep.
like you'll be able to guess that. Listening to music a lot, you probably could tell that. Like if you follow me on social media, you know like I listen to music all the time. So those are really the main two things I do. And me and the guys, we all got Nerf guns, so we started having Nerf gun fights. So that's new. Yeah, we
saw that.
yeah, that's something new. So besides that, it's like pretty typical. Like,
You probably don't have a whole lot of time
yeah,
away from
honestly,
that. Honestly,
yeah.
Yeah, a few questions from fans from our Al Scoop message boards here. So these are screen names that they're coming from. The first one comes from West Coast Al. Who's the most improved player on the team from last season?
I would say Damian Moore. Much more aggressive, much more physical, finishing around the rim, offensive rebounding, defending, doing it all. He's talking, doing it all.
I mean, how big, again, sounds like a simple question. I mean, how his development, how big could that be for you guys considering just needing that presence in the paint?
It'll be vital for us. We're losing Aaron, and he was a beast on defense and on the glass. He even helped us some games offensively. So, I mean, we're definitely going to need that inside presence, and I think Dame's, like, he's came a long way, and I think he'll help us a lot this season.
Next question comes from SoCal Al. What part of your game needs to work to make the NBA draft work best for you?
Taking care of the ball. I think these past 3 years I've been too, like, careless with it, like turning it over, took a couple bad shots. I mean, just getting up good shots, taking care of the ball, making a simple play. I feel like that'll help me a lot.
Just to follow, where is your shot right now? Because you shot it a couple years ago. Your three-point percentage was decent. It dipped a little bit last year. Where do you feel like your shot is right now?
I feel like last year dipped because it's not because I wasn't getting up the reps, like outside of practice, in practice, like working out enough. I think I was forcing it. Like I would see them going in so much in practice, and like when I was working out, like that I would just shoot the first one that I got in the game, and I always oftentimes I wasn't the best shot for the team, so like that's what hurt my percentage early in the season, and it was hard to bring it back up once I was so low. I think I was at like 17% at one point, but I got it up to like low 30s, I think. So I mean, now I'm at a point where I'm 100% confident in it, and I just shoot the good ones, like shoot the open ones, basically.
Last reader question here comes from Mike TB31. Who's the most talented player you've ever played against?
Talented player I've ever played against. That's a tough one. Playing on the EYBL circuit, I played against some real talented guys.
And you played with a real good Albany City Rocks, right?
Yeah.
The AAU program that you were in.
Most talented guy I played with, I would probably say either Kevin Herter or Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant from the Wizards, Kevin Herter from the Hawks. And against, I would probably say De'Aaron Fox. He gave me some trouble, and I remember at Peach Jam. Yeah, that was my matchup. But
Last question for you, Q. Is there a guy on the team? I mean, there are a lot of guys we haven't touched on. JP, Dre, Justin. Is there a guy that is really gonna surprise people this year? A guy that, you know, like if you were to put on your coach's hat, you're a veteran guy, maybe a likely captain. Is there a guy that maybe is going to surprise people this year?
I think there's a few guys that are surprising people. For one, I think Alani will surprise a lot of people because like he went from playing a lot, not playing as much, and I think he'll get some more time this year, and he'll help us a lot. He's gotten better, he's gotten more mature, so that's his thing. It's just maturity. And JP and Dre as well. I think both of those guys create matchup problems for us at the 3, at the 4. So, I mean, I don't think too many forwards can get out and guard those guys. They can both shoot it, can both make plays, pass, put it on the ground, and they're athletic. So, I mean, they both cause matchup problems. And with the offense that we play now, I feel like it's just set up for them to thrive.
right, so a lot of interesting stuff there from Quinton Rose, Temple senior wing guard / potential point guard this year. What are your general takeaways from that interview, from what he talked about?
Yeah, I think it's if you're a fan of Temple, if you're a fan of Quinton Rose, he said pretty much everything you want to hear. That, hey, we're practicing harder. There's gonna be more tempo. That doesn't necessarily mean running just for the sake of running. We're putting more of an emphasis on defense. He said they're a much more defensive-minded team this year. And then personally, he talked about what every message board poster for the last 3 years has been saying. That, hey, if this kid doesn't force bad threes, if he cuts down on his turnovers, he has a chance to be that next level good. And I think he's fully aware of that. One of the interesting quotes to me was when he did say, hey, I didn't just read my press clippings too much for the positive stuff. I was paying too much attention to the negative stuff too. He pretty much saying like I was living and dying with every tweet coming his way.
I give him credit for disclosing that, because not a lot of guys, there are some guys, even just by following them on social media, you can tell that they pay attention to what fans say. And again, I'm not really judging those guys for that. I've never been in that position before, obviously, but a lot of them will say, I don't let outside stuff get to me. You kind of want to say to them sometimes, it looks like you let outside stuff get to you.
You're a 20-year-old kid that's liking people things on Instagram. You absolutely.
And Q, I give him credit for just kind of disclosing, like, I let some of that stuff get to me.
Yeah. No, I think my kind of general takeaway from that is that Q Rose realizes that despite how talented he is, that he doesn't have to do everything on this team. This is going to be a relatively deep team. There's a lot of other guys on this team that are going to be able to score. He's going to be given a lot more ball handling responsibilities. And he said multiple times, like, just make the simple play. Like, I don't have to do something flashy. I need to learn to just take the simple play when it's in front of me. So it seems like what you would expect for a senior, where he's starting to realize, like, he's starting to mature. He's starting to really let the game slow down for him. So hopefully, if you're a Temple fan, you're optimistic that Quinton Rose might have turned that corner and taken that next step.
In terms of like not having to make every single play, he talked about Josh Pierre-Louis. He says he's one of the most athletic guys I've ever played with. We'll obviously see a lot of, I think we'll see a lot of Josh Pierre-Louis this year. May not start right away. The early returns I'm hearing from practice so far is that he's looked very, very good. Sam, I think you said you talked to Nate recently for a piece for WHIP, and he's
Cherry
obviously
Tribune.
Shameless plug, the Cherry Tribune. I did have Nate Pierre-Louis on, and one of the things we got a chance to talk about was like what it was like playing with Josh, being around Josh growing up, and what's it going to be like taking it to the next level. And the look in Nate's face when he started talking about Josh, he was like almost speechless, to the point of like, you guys are going to be surprised about what this kid can do. Because I'm sure everybody's seen the highlights of him in high school with breakaway crazy dunks. Nate said he would not be surprised in the slightest if Josh gets a breakaway and does one of those, bounce the ball, jump, rise with it, put it through his legs and jam it in a game.
He said Aaron will put him right on the bench.
But the biggest thing Nate said is like, listen, I know I'm athletically gifted. I know I'm stronger than he is, but this kid is a freak of nature when it comes to being athletically gifted, and it comes to being able to do crazy things on a basketball court. And the other thing that he said, the biggest change that Josh has had from playing in high school is he's much more of a scorer now. When they were growing up, like in high school, Nate was a lot more of a scorer. Josh was feeding Nate the ball, and Nate would do the scoring. Come college, huge jump, totally different play styles. Obviously, Nate, much less of a scorer, gets his shots when he needs them. A lot more defending and rebounding. He's here to help the team. Whereas Josh becomes much more of a pure scorer, and he thinks that the two of them will work really well together.
When I talked to Josh over the summer, he talked about the fact that, like, if you actually even just look at a picture of the standard stock photo that Rivals has of Josh in his profile, he's very skinny, and he's bulked up. I mean, he's not like huge, but he's bulked up a lot more. He talked about how he would practice against his father, Franz Pierre-Louis. He was a really good player.
Wasn't Franz like 6'9"?
Yeah, he was big. And he would just drive at him, and his father would push him. He would say, like, basically, like, drive into me, and he would kind of push him to get him used to, like, you create the contact. I mean, Josh told me there were some reasons, like, as of a couple years ago, I could barely dunk. And
Josh's also 6'2", 6'3" now.
Yeah, right. And now he can dunk a lot more. So I think when, like, taking it back to Quinton Rose for a second, obviously, he's had to create, Shiz has had to create. They really have not had a pure, we've talked about this a million times, a pure drive and dish point guard. The last one they had was Will Cummings, with all due respect to Will Cummings. Will's a guy who's playing professionally in Europe. Josh is a guy who, and again, we're putting the cart way before the horse, Josh is a guy who, if he progresses, there's a guy where you look at like some of the skill and say, okay, there's some real dynamic ability there. So we haven't watched Temple with that type of guard in quite a while. Again, we're putting the cart way before the horse here, but the early returns are pretty good. But again, Quinton is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. And again, there are a lot of different guys that could start up the offense, but he did talk a lot about, he just flat out, again, I'll give him credit. He said, I'll admit I've been careless with the ball. And they talked about just how he talked about how practices have been different, how practices have been a lot more up-tempo. Yes, they are going to push the tempo, not quite as much as they did in the Bahamas,
right, sure.
but just being very defensive oriented in terms of, he's like, hey, if we're watching the ball go in the net, it's no fun starting offense that way. Talked about some of the top guys he's played against. Talked about Damian Moore being the most improved player on the team, which would be a plus.
He needs to be the most improved player of anybody, I think.
Yeah, I think a couple of guys do. But, yeah, I mean, again, you've seen some of the pure talent that they have in Justin Hamilton. Justin's a guy who can step out and hit some threes and has been able to kind of like post up at times and, and hit some fadeaway shots in the paint. But if Damian Moore looks a lot more like the guy who went for 20 and 10 against South Carolina and a lot less like the guy who either wasn't playing or was just playing a couple minutes and turning the ball over, then they can be in pretty good shape there.
Yeah, I would think that if somebody came to you right now and they said, hey, we can give you what Ernest Aflakpee gave you last year in Damian Moore, you sign off for that in a second. If he can get you good defense, occasional offensive games, and 20 minutes a game, then that's a big leap from where he's been for the first 3 years of his career.
Another thing that he talked about, we've mentioned before on this podcast that Damian Dunn, from what I understand, it's the injury that Damian Dunn has is very similar to the broken bone that Quinton Rose, the fracture that Quinton Rose had in his foot. Damian Dunn may or may not be ready for the start of the season. I think he's out of his boot now, but Quinton spoke highly of him. He said he's just, he's real smooth. You can't really speed him up. His what did he say? His mid-range game is 100.
It's 100.
Yeah,
like on 100.
On the 100, yeah, like just a real good mid-range player. I guess if you're a Temple fan, and if you've been a Temple fan for a while, I think Damian Dunn might remind you a little bit of like Marty Collins, that type of player, just really smooth, playing with good pace and playing under control. So I think this is a team that has a lot of different pieces and parts to it. We'll see how it all melts together under a first-year head coach. But again, it sounds like the practices have been a lot more up-tempo. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview, and we'll have more guests for you throughout in the upcoming weeks. We'll try to get a couple more players as basketball season gets closer. That opener is less than
November 5th.
Yeah, less than a month, technically less than a month away, right? So
comes quick.
Try to get a couple of other players who we haven't heard from. Let's get to some mailbag questions. We have quite a few of them this week, mostly from the message boards. Actually, all of them from the message boards so far, unless we get any last-minute questions coming in. First one comes from Berkshire Al from the message board. Has Russo scrambled at all this season? I'm not counting breakdowns on the offensive line. I don't recall any designed runs for him. I think this is making it easier to defend. Well, no, they haven't had a lot of designed runs for him.
I don't think scrambling when it's a designed run.
Scrambling,
we wouldn't call it scrambling.
I think we know what he
right.
But knew what he meant there. But I don't think that's ever been. Sure, I think like at times I think a couple of coaches have said, yeah, hey, he's a little bit more mobile than people give him credit for.
Sure, he showed that last year against like UCF.
Right, yeah. But no, it hasn't been a part of the game plan. But I don't know that it's like them not having design runs for Anthony Russo is making him easier to defend.
Right, this is the pro-style offense.
Yeah.
There's no need for it. You look at quarterbacks like Ben Roethlisberger, even Carson Wentz, who's mobile. You don't need to have that kind of element of running. Obviously, college has changed so much, but this is a pro-style offense. If he can throw the ball, he's fine.
Next question comes from Green Street Owl. This is a two-parter. Ramon Davis will have the biggest impact for a Temple true freshman since ... Nobody is a possibility and an acceptable answer.
I saw some people on our boards immediately throw out Paul Palmer. I think you're skipping P.J. Walker. Played a lot as a true freshman. I think you're skipping Bernard Pierce. Rushed for 1,400 yards as a true freshman. I think they've had some freshmen. Hell, even Matt Brown made a hell of an impact as a freshman. I think they've had some freshmen really step out in this on this team. I think he has a chance to be very good. I think it's still 5 games, and Bernard did it for 13 games. Where it's Bernard's 13 games, which is like 10 games.
The one thing that Ramon Davis or Ray Davis could do is a different type of runner. Like, Bernard used to draw some comparisons to Eddie George because he was like 6'1", 6'2", a real upright runner. I mean, Bernard as a pure athlete was really, really fun to watch. But then the injuries started to set in, and his durability got questioned. And then Al Golden made the sort of regrettable decision to try to promote him as a Heisman candidate. And I don't think that
Hunt for the Heisman.
Yeah, Bernard
You were
was
too
really
young, Graham. You were
ready
probably
for
like
that.
11. But yeah, there were buses running around with Bernard Pierce on the side of it. Yeah, it was strange. Strange time.
But I mean, if Davis can stay healthy, durability obviously is a big thing. He's a shorter back. But yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of exceeding everybody's expectations. I mean, this is a guy, again, we've mentioned this before, wasn't even eligible in the spring.
Yep.
Had to wait on his eligibility. And that's a similarity to Bernard Pierce because Bernard he didn't play.
Bernard became eligible like 4 days before the Villanova game.
Yeah, so he would he have a couple carries in that?
He had like
Villanova
3
game?
or 4, yeah.
And then really came out in that second week against Buffalo.
Yep.
But different type of runner, but has really been consistent. They haven't gotten the ball to him as much in the passing game as they did in the opener. Not that they were really like making that a concentrated point in the offense, but yeah, I think of the same thing. PJ, I think of Bernard, but he's on pace to.
Yep, I'll
say
the thing. He's averaging 100 yards a game right now, so 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, depending on how many games they play.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say the thing that Ramon has going for him, and we talked about this a little bit earlier in the game, is when Bernard came up, Temple hadn't had a good running back in some time.
Mm-hmm.
Like he needed to be a good running back on that team. Jagger Gardner's played pretty well so far. Ramon Davis doesn't do it all. I can't imagine a scenario where Ramon Davis gets 40 carries in a game like Bernard did at points during his freshman year.
Mm-hmm. Question number 2. I really wanted to ask this tongue-in-cheek question after last week. But how many Georgia Tech fans do you think Jeff Collins blocked, muted, or unfollowed after consecutive losses to the Citadel and us? So he's referring to the fact that it appears that Jeff Collins appears to have an itchy trigger finger when it comes to blocking people and unfollowing people on social media.
I'm going to preface this with how I always preface it, that Jeff Collins was never anything but nice to us, but Jeff Collins could probably take a little bit of advice from Quinton Rose and not read his own clippings too much, not get too high, not get too low, don't live and die with social media. I would say quite a few. He went out of his way to unfollow a lot of people when he left Philadelphia, myself included. And I would say, I'm going to say over under 21.5.
Sam, did Jeff Collins ever get chippy with you on social media?
No, Jeff Collins, I never really went at it.
I have a take.
I didn't either. And he just went out of his way to unfollow me. Literally, I didn't say anything mean.
Who are these Temple people?
He just went through and he
I follow?
unfollowed every single Temple person that he followed. Like, I don't care about the same one.
I have a take. Unless you're being harassed by somebody, which happens to celebrities, important people, if you block someone on Twitter, you're a coward. You're just a coward.
What are your thoughts on mutes?
Muting is the way to do it. That is
the
the greatest invention Twitter's ever had. You can get rid of the people without them knowing.
And they're just screaming into the void.
Right.
You'll never see it. They're wasting all this energy on it and you just never see it.
That's the mature
and
way
you
to
never
handle
see
it.
their garbage pail takes of saying cream cheese is awful.
Thank you, Kyle. Cream cheese is really bad, but
cream cheese is delicious.
Yo, what?
Yeah,
Graham is anti-cream
Graham's notorious
cheese.
for bad food takes.
He thinks that it's a scam.
I'm notorious for
Wait,
food
let's
takes.
get
Graham,
this
I used to
another
like you.
The cream cheese one is one that I will say that I know I'm just wrong. Like there's nothing I can do about it.
He also doesn't like buffalo chicken. He
We're
doesn't
coming
like
up
a lot of
on
stuff.
Kyle almost strangled Graham last year around Thanksgiving.
Doesn't like stuffing.
Yeah.
Not a stuffing guy.
Stuffing is
don't
one.
What do you eat at Thanksgiving?
I mean,
saltines.
I eat the turkey, the green beans, the mashed potatoes.
Just not a stuffing guy.
And stuffing, there have been some plates of stuffing that are made a certain way that aren't horrible. Cream
Here's the
cheese
thing.
can
All
never.
right, wait.
Here's
Can
the
I throw out one more Thanksgiving question?
Go for it.
What's better, Thanksgiving dinner or Thanksgiving breakfast the next day?
Oh, easily the breakfast. Yeah,
Good call.
Listen, I don't think
leftovers
it's the breakfast. I think it's like the 8:30 the night of Thanksgiving sandwich that you make out of the
That's
fridge.
okay. Yeah.
But what I'll say is that your food takes aren't just garbage.
Okay.
You don't allow them. Like, this is the first one that you're like, hey, I know I'm wrong.
I think most of them.
Stuffing, you were like, I think everybody that thinks stuffing, that likes stuffing, like, I think it's a scam. Like, I don't understand this. Like, you were adamant that you were right about it and we were
very
wrong.
triggered by this.
I don't
This
know
one,
if I was like that.
This one, you're at least being like, well, yeah, I have.
Well, because I think I've noticed that everything I say is just no one
wrong.
agrees. Like,
Yeah.
so it's not. I mean, it's not that
it's wrong.
It's disagreeable.
Well, let's have like a bigger philosophy question on this. If everybody agrees that something is A
Right.
and you agree it's B, is it up for debate or are you just wrong?
A bigger one is an opinion, right or wrong.
If
Yeah.
okay,
Because here's my thing: everyone likes hot sauce. I just don't like it. Everyone
by
likes cream
definition,
cheese. I just don't
similar
like
question: is popular music good by definition because it's popular?
No.
I think so. I think the answer is yes, because the collective people have determined that this is good.
On
This is
the
what's
trend of
popular.
social media, I was actually thinking about that this morning. If you tweet unpopular opinion XYZ and you get 20,000 likes, is it still an unpopular opinion?
It's so annoying.
At that point, it becomes a popular opinion.
Right, exactly. And I hate the people. There were so many like temple editions of the unpopular opinions that were just popular opinions you're trying for the clout. That's a whole other thing. Yeah. But my original take before we got into our food thing is that if you block people just because you're annoyed by them, you're a coward.
Yeah, mute them. Like
Period.
And odds are, if I didn't respond to you
Mute them
tweeting
like
at
an
me 4
adult.
times in a row, I either muted you years ago or I just don't care.
Yeah.
I realize I'm probably like I wouldn't follow me on Twitter because I don't engage. I don't engage at all. I don't respond to
don't.
anybody's replies.
Barely follow to people. Yeah, that's true.
Couldn't care less.
That's a great point.
I got a retweet from Kyle like a week or two ago.
That's a big one.
I like
It was
Sam.
nice.
Big moment.
You won't get a mute or a block from me. Kyle. You're good.
Next question comes from TU_1834. As people who cover the team, how surprising is it to you that the rushing game is seemingly more reliable than the passing game at this juncture? Also, what's going on here? He references a tweet from Carnell Davis, who's a player at St. Augustine Prep, where he had tweeted at Fran Brown, said, looks like I'm about to...
I'm thinking about making that move.
About making that move. Now, he's a 2021 kid, right?
I can get into that one. I think I have some conspiracy theories on that one.
Okay. We'll go to answer the first question. As people who cover the team, how surprising is it to you that the rushing game is seemingly more reliable than the passing game at this juncture? Fairly surprised, just because that was the key question mark going into the season. So I mean, I think it's a good question. Again, we just talked about a couple minutes ago. I did not think Ray Davis would be as good as he was going to be, and you've accurately pointed out that Jagger Gardner has been really steady and given Davis some time off and been like a good straightforward runner. Now he had the who do you have the fumble against? Maryland. Other than that, he's taking care of the ball for the most part, and has been again a good strong runner. Gets you a good 15, 16 carries a game. So. Yeah, I'd say fairly surprised.
I think the most surprising part, too, is just the stability that they found in just using Gardner and Davis. Like, I thought it would be more by committee, guys having good games, guys having bad games, behind a good offensive line that could open up holes.
And they haven't had to use Isaiah Wright to give him a jolt
right.
at all, really. Sam, any thoughts on this?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
All right, so Graham is leaving for class, but as he leaves for class, we will advise you all to check out his basketball recruiting story on Quincy Adam McCoy, who visited Temple last weekend. Again, we're going to save a lot of the good information for our subscribers on the site and encourage you to subscribe to owlscoop.com. Graham, anything you want to tease about the story here?
Yeah, I'm glad you said his name out loud because I was pretty sure how to pronounce it, but I'm glad to hear Adam McCoy out loud. No, but it seems like he really enjoyed the official visit. He's back in Georgia right now, and they kind of see him as the next kind of Quinton Rose player, a slim, tall wing player who can have consistent jump shots. He really got along with Damian Dunn and Josh Pierre-Louis, a lot of the younger guys coming in, like Aaron McKie. Definitely some great stuff. He was very forthcoming in the interview, just gave a lot of great information, didn't really hold back. So he'll really open up in the stories, you can tell online.
Oh, Graham, have fun at class.
Thank you
for joining us once again.
Godspeed.
Are you leaving any Sour Patch Kids for us?
Yeah, I have a whole bag if you want it. I just threw it in my backpack.
I'm good.
Oh, is that bag empty?
There's 2 more in here.
There's two more in here. I'll take those.
Okay.
All right.
Would you like the other bag?
No.
Okay.
Now I sound like a pig. Anyway.
I'll bring more next week.
All right, let's answer the other part of that question. Also, what's going on here with that Carnell Davis tweet? You said you have some theories about this.
Yeah, so in case, like we talked about, in case anybody wasn't aware, Carnell Davis is a wide receiver 2021 from St. Augustine Prep. He has offered some like Auburn. He has some big offers, and he tweeted, "Hey, at Coach Fran TU, I think thinking about making that move, side eye. I don't think this is a coincidence. I think let me say this. I think anybody on Temple staff not named Rod Carey, if they got offered the Rutgers head coaching job tomorrow, would take the Rutgers head coaching job tomorrow. Obviously, it's a Big Ten head coaching job. It's a step up in your career. I think that there's at least a chance here that it's a little bit calculated for people to see that, hey, Fran Brown's really good at recruiting, and a lot of kids would follow him to Rutgers if he got the Rutgers head coaching job. Do I think that Fran Brown is going to go from co-defensive coordinator at Temple to Rutgers as head coach in one offseason? No, probably not.
Had the same thought about this.
But I don't think this is Carnell Davis just deciding to show his hands for no reason. I think this is a little bit of, hey, I'm the type of guy that Fran would get if Fran Brown was the head coach at Rutgers.
All right, so that dovetails nicely into this next question from Malenko from the message board. Do you believe Fran Brown will still be part of Carey's staff next year? How likely do you see him joining the eventual new staff at Rutgers? That is the first of a 2-part question, so we'll answer this one first.
I feel better now than I did, or I feel better a couple weeks ago than I did over the summer. I mean, I feel like in the past couple months, Fran Brown and then the current coaching staff has kind of started to gel a bit, and they've started to figure out what pushes each other's buttons in good ways and bad ways. I think Chris Ash getting fired does put a bit of a wrench in it. I think at this point in Fran Brown's career, not to speak too much, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I would think that Fran Brown at this point in his career is probably more title-oriented than he is necessarily money-oriented. He makes good money here at Temple. He probably makes better money here at Temple than he would for any position other than defensive coordinator at Rutgers. Rutgers isn't exactly the highest budget in the world despite being in the Big Ten. Their co-defensive coordinators make a little bit less than what I think Fran Brown's making. I would think that if whoever the new coach is, if they want to give Fran Brown the defensive coordinator position, yeah, he'll take that job. Why wouldn't he take that job? That's a play calling position. It's in the Big Ten. If you go and become the defensive coordinator at Rutgers and you prove that you can bring all these guys to the Big Ten, and you all of a sudden a couple years from now Rutgers is a 6-16 with a good defense, then yeah, you're setting yourself up to be the next coach at an American Conference level. Mm-hmm. I think if Lance Leopold gets that job and brings the entire staff from Buffalo with him, a staff that he's been with for a decade, then no, he's not. He's probably not going to leave Temple to go to Rutgers.
Situation.
There wouldn't be a spot for him. I don't think Fran Brown leaves to be the cornerbacks coach at Rutgers. From what I've heard, he's had that opportunity 3, 4, 5 times already in his career, and he's turned it down every time. I think if somebody came and said you could be the defensive coordinator at this Big Ten school, he would say yes.
And the interesting thing to watch will be, and again, I'm certainly not trying to push the guy out the door, but if Temple continues to have the type of season it's having, Jeff Knowles is a really good defensive coordinator. I heard before the season even started that there are several Power 5 coaches who really like him a lot, and there's a kind of a network of people, and I don't want to name the coaches that I've heard because it's kind of speculation, but some of Rod Carey knows some of the same coaches. There's been overlap with staff and some guys he's friends with, and he's been approached by at least one guy who's kind of said to him, like, really like your defensive coordinator a lot. So now if Knowles were to leave and Rod doesn't bump
that's a
Fran
fork in
up,
the road one way or the other.
Then I think Fran could be like, okay. And then maybe he starts actively looking again. This is all speculation on our part. Nothing's definitive here, but I get the sense of the question because Fran's been a great he's been a great recruiter. He's been a great position coach. He's helped get a lot of guys to the NFL. Obviously lobbied hard to get the head job, the first time around. But I think that's a pretty fair answer. But I think it'll be interesting to see if Jeff Knowles is not back next year and ends up with a Power 5 job. Second part of Maleko's question, do you anticipate Carey and his staff targeting more kids from the transfer portal? Several AAC teams, especially SMU and Houston, have added large numbers of kids from P5 programs and or looking to play closer to home, while Temple has been more selective in who they bring in. Another good question. What do you think of this one, guys?
I don't know if I fully agree with Temple has been more selective in who they bring in. Sure, they've been more selective than like Houston or Maryland, schools like that. But like Harrison Hand's a transfer from Baylor. Right. Jacob Lafreeze, a transfer from Indy.
Both your kicker and your punter or JUCO transfers.
Transfer.
One's a JUCO transfer.
One's a JUCO transfer. One's a grad transfer. Aaron Monroe is your starting safety. He's a grad transfer. I think they are willing. I actually think that this staff is more willing to take JUCO kids than previous staffs. Mm-hmm. I don't think Matt Rule did it a little bit in the beginning with Alex Wells and Shaheed Lovett, but after that he kind of calmed down after that. I don't think, did Jeff Collins take any JUCO kids? I don't remember a single JUCO kid from Jeff Collins. I think this staff's willing to take players wherever they can get them. I think they did a fairly good job of Joseph Hooper, the backup guard, is a junior college guy. I think J.D. Gomez was a junior college guy for Jeff Collins. But I think they do a good job of analyzing where they need to add depth, and they brought in transfers that way.
Mm-hmm. Next question from the message board comes from Moose Jake 008. Was last week's 12 penalties being addressed, and why so many offsides and legal procedure calls? Well, yeah, of course it's being.
It came up today at Rod Carey's press conference. I don't know if you guys heard about that.
So listen to this because we're gonna have the audio of that posted. A little bit. You guys, it'll be on the site by the time you guys listen to this. I was at basketball today, so you were there today. What did Rod say about this?
So yeah, it came up like, what are you guys doing to address these penalties? And first thing Rod Carey says, in today's football, a penalty like a holding call is something you can call on any play. That's really up to the ref. Like the holding calls can be called pretty often, not super controllable. Things like offsides, pre-snap penalties, that's the kind of thing they've really been on top of, really been hammering this week. And they do a lot of like situational stuff and a lot of pressure situations to try to get guys a little more comfortable in those situations. So come game day, they're a little more well prepared for stuff like that.
Next question comes from Cool Hand Red from the message board. Wouldn't it make sense to get Kyle Dobbins on the field at running back in case either Garner or Davis gets dinged up? Remember what happened last year when Armstead got hurt and the Owls offense went cold?
Sure. But
Yeah.
what game in the past couple of weeks could you look at and say, yeah, that's where Kyle Dobbins could have come in?
Yeah,
Even the ECU game was a 10-point win. So, like,
that's the answer to that question. Again, I mean this is no disrespect to Cool Hand Red here, but this is the typical fan question, like the text that you get from your friend or your father or an uncle, like, why is this guy still in the game? Shouldn't they put? I think fans don't realize how tightly football coaches grip onto a game. As you said, like, you could put Kyle Dobbins in, and again, I think Rod Carey has said, like, Kyle's ready, he's there, but football coaches grip tightly, and you put Kyle Dobbins in that game and he comes right in and fumbles, and then that turns the game, then
right.
Then you have that happen to you a couple times, then people are questioning your job. It sounds like Kyle Dobbins has come along, but I don't know that this is the, if there was a game that was going to be ready, or a game that you'd work him in, maybe against Bucknell or something like that, but
Which they did. He did run against Bucknell.
he did.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to get him. The Buffalo game obviously didn't go the way you wanted to. Georgia Tech, again, they kind of pulled away a little bit later. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks, but this is going to be a tough 3-game stretch where,
Sure.
unless they unexpectedly cruise to an easy win against Memphis, you're probably not going to see him this week.
Carey gave the same answer he's been getting for the last 3-4 weeks. Like, he'd love to get a third running back and that running back by committee. Dobbins is definitely would be that guy, but he's just not there yet. He's improving week by week, but he would like him to be that guy. He's just not there yet.
Yeah. Next question from the message board. What to you? Do you think there will be another series with Todd at QB again this week?
Sure. Maybe.
Sounded today like there will be.
I think, I would think that there are. I think you go back to that well until it doesn't work, and then you start to think about it. I mean, it worked both times they went in.
What do you say about it this week? Or today?
Both Russo and Centeo said in scrums post practice that their mindset is stay ready. They're both, huge cheerleaders for each other. They have a great relationship, the two of them. Carey trusts both of them. And the big thing that came up is the way Carey wants to change this offense a little bit to give it a little more depth, in the sense that Todd brings something to the offense that Anthony Russo doesn't. Mm-hmm. Todd Centeo, the best comparison I can give him is Lamar Jackson. Obviously, he's a much lower scale, but he's the quarterback that's going to come in and run the ball. Right, he said himself, he sounded just like Lamar Jackson, saying, I could be they want me to play running back. Or there was a question hey, Ty, what do you think about being the Wildcat? He's not a running back. He's a quarterback. He likes to throw the ball. He can throw the ball. But that's essentially what he's coming in to do. The question before about Anthony Russo scrambling, designing plays for him to run, that's not who Anthony Russo is as a quarterback. He's tall, he stands in the pocket, and he can make throws, whereas Todd Centeo is a little more of a runner. So having those two guys, which was something that was touched on a lot today, brings a different dynamic and a new challenge to opposing defenses, because they not only prepare for Russo, they also have to prepare for Centeo. And Centeo specifically said today, when they spend slightly less time worrying about Russo and a little more time worrying about me, or vice versa, that means the other guy can break out for a big game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think. Again, we'll see. We talked about before you got in here, Memphis, the one thing they have not done well was defend the run. They haven't been good at defending the run. So if you feel like you can get some yards traditionally on the ground, why not see what you can break open with Toddy in the game? So I certainly wouldn't be surprised. Next question comes from JHG722 from the message board. A post on the ECU message board made me think about it, but our O-line is probably our lowest rated unit in terms of recruiting. Donaldson and Sam Davis are a bit better regarded. Jermaine Donaldson from Eastern, a guy who is with the program now from the 2019 class. Sam Davis from the 2020 class, kid from out in Ohio. They're a bit better regarded, so hopefully we're now able to attract better recruits on the offensive line. Who or what would you attribute the O-line's development and success to? My first answer would be I think you go back to Chris Weasingham.
Sure.
Who's done a really good job over the past few years. I think you also credit Matt Rule with that too. Not to take anything away from Jeff, but Matt was the CEO of the program for a while, but Matt didn't play offensive line at Penn State, but I think he was good at working with these offensive linemen. He was an assistant offensive line coach with the Giants for a year before he came to Temple. So I think those guys really JHG's not mentioning Deion Dawkins here, but bringing in a guy like Deion into the program, getting him in, a guy that was overlooked by Rutgers and some other programs out of Rahway, New Jersey, him coming in and him being like a teacher on the field. I think those are the guys that you'd give.
Yeah, sure, but you just named a bunch of players that aren't on this year's offensive line.
No, but I'm saying like those guys set the foundation that can kind of set the example for guys that come in who weren't as highly recruited, and you could say, okay, I'm going to be like him. I'm going to be like him. I'm going to be like him.
Yeah, I mean, I would just think like good things. Like I think they've done a good job of analyzing. Like Javon Fair was an Ohio commit, and I remember before he got here, the staff being absolutely in love with him. They thought he was a 4-year starter guy. Matt Hennessy had a bunch of FCS level offers, and they identified him. Vince Picozzi, nobody can really take credit for. He's like Hassan Reddick. He walked on and just developed. I would say with Adam Klein.
Well, he was a preferred walk-on. They knew what they were getting.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so was Hassan.
Right.
But you still can't take credit. You didn't offer him a scholarship.
You can take credit for bringing him in as a preferred walk-on. Yeah.
I don't think you could take credit for preferred walk-ons. Anyway, because you didn't like him enough to offer him a scholarship. Anyway, Adam Klein, I will say the reason that he wasn't highly rated is because he committed to Temple before he got a star rating.
Yeah.
So his bigger offers get negated, and somebody that's responsible for assigning stars just heard Temple commit and put a 2-star on it.
Yep.
Isaac Moore, same thing. I think it's just they've always done a good job trusting their eyes. I think Chris Weezyhan did a good job of coaching them. I think Joe
I was going to say I wouldn't undersell what Joe Tripodi's doing so far. I mean, Joe's a former Northwestern offensive lineman from his days. I mean, Rod was a former center at Indiana, so these guys are offensive linemen by heart.
I think they've had good coaches. They've taken chances on kids that other programs might not necessarily like, and it's something that they've kind of worked on. And I think you would hope that with Donaldson and Sam Davis, like you said, bigger recruited guys coming in, that maybe they end up panning out.
Mm-hmm. Next, and I believe our final. We got one last question coming in here from Chris Coyer on the message board that we'll get to. So we got 2 more left here. Fred A. from the message board regarding next year's football schedule. Will Temple be scheduling an extra conference game to replace UConn, or will it be an additional out-of-conference game?
Sort of the first one. Temple won't be scheduling it. The conference will assign them an extra conference game.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be. They're not going to have 7 conference games and 5 out of conference. They're still going to have 8 conference games. Seems like they're going to get rid of divisions, and it just kind of becomes like a bit of a round robin.
Mm-hmm. So, final message board question from today from C. Coyer on the message board, Chris Coyer. On another note, is there a new food truck on campus making a splash? Sam, I'll let you take that one. I had a couple
That's
I
a
can
good
think
one.
of, but
I mean, halal's everyone's go-to. That's the one everyone talks about the most. I did try there's a Jamaican one close to Broad Street that I tried that I noticed last year, but I tried like a week or 2 ago. Really good for an unbelievably low price. Off the top of my head, though, I can't think of any.
That's not Caribbean Feast, right? What do you think of what Jamaican one is there?
I have no idea the name of it, but it is Jamaican
There's
food.
a new, and I apologize, I'm forgetting the name of it. There's a new Mexican truck, a taco truck, right by the green truck outside
I keep
the
walking
student
by
center.
it.
It's very good.
I would
highly recommend it. And again, I apologize to them. I'm forgetting the name. Maybe they want to advertise with us. But I would say that's a good new one. I am also going to plug the Temple News Lunchies section this week. Check them out at temple-news.com. Each year the paper does a special section on the lunch trucks around campus, so that would be a perfect time to mention what they do, and they can talk to you about some of the new trucks on campus.
I know there is a section in that story about the halal trucks.
Yes.
So like halal trucks were always a big thing like in New York, but I feel like they're everywhere now. Like I have 3 on the health science campus.
I think there's at least 5 on main campus.
Yeah.
At
Same
least.
$5 deal combo for $5.
Yeah. There is one though that says New York style.
Are you a hot sauce, white sauce guy, or what do you do?
I go more white sauce, a little bit of hot sauce.
I go normal amount of white, a lot of hot.
I'm very American. I don't know the taste buds. I can't handle that.
I'm a big spice guy though. I brought peppers into work today because I might pick the peppers from my backyard. I was just making people eat them. I was just watching.
Didn't you do a ghost pepper?
I've done the Carolina Reaper like 3 times. Yeah.
And then what, you just drank milk after?
Yeah, the first time I made a mistake, I drank too much lactic and went right through me, and then you got a whole other issue, so you're paying for it twice. But since then, like, kind of just like grin and bear it, get through it. You almost get a little bit of like a euphoria moment when you're dealing with that much. Like your body doesn't know what to do. Yeah, it's nice. I like spice. Big pepper guy.
Sam, do you have a favorite truck on campus?
I really like El Guaco Loco, I think it's called. It's right next to Annenberg. And then there is a halal truck right next to the student center that I really like.
Yeah.
Those are probably my two
Did you have a
go-tos.
favorite one when you were going to
I don't
Temple?
think there were halal trucks when I was here.
Did you have a favorite truck?
Like,
when
but
you went to-
legitimately, like there weren't no halal trucks on main campus, right? It came
just
out
a
of nowhere.
favorite food truck.
It was a
period.
sexy
Oh.
green truck guy. I like
I got
the
one
crepe
more
truck.
after.
The crepe truck was good.
I've heard good things. E&E, great breakfast place.
Yeah.
It's like a block from the student center.
Yeah, I feel like E&E was when I was here. You'd always see like signs for like E&E to the left. I mean, you're like, where the hell is it? Like, what is this?
It's also a family company.
Oh, so yeah, supporting families.
There you go.
Did you guys hear about Rod Carey's nice guy move yesterday?
Oh, he matched Macho.
Macho Scotty Smalls raised $10,000 through Pat McAfee for a charity of his choice because of his 30-plus yard punt at the ECU game, and Rod Carey offered to match it.
Could you punt the ball 30 yards?
I think so.
I think I could with the bounce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have
But
you
I
seen?
think it's different with like all these cameras on me and stuff. I might
Yeah.
decide.
Well, I did ask him today because he was made available to the media. Richburg made Macho Scotty Smalls available to the media.
Smalls if
And
anybody needs
I
it.
asked him about the punt, like out of his preparation. He said that was first try. He didn't get any practice that day.
Maybe there has to have. Like he had to have practiced at some point before they did the video. Though,
Oh
to be
yeah,
like,
yeah. I'm sure he practiced like days leading up to it, but
Here's why
he claims he didn't practice.
Here's why
that
I
at the
don't think
game.
that's true. The video where he hits at 30 yards, you see Temple special teams analyst Dan Sabak or whatever, like next to him, like like clearly, like I think he gave up tips, like this is how you do this, you gotta do that,
Yeah.
make sure you do this. I think I could kick it.
He's also a shorter kid. I don't know how much power he's got in that leg.
It's true.
I was thinking about that too last week. I was like, yeah, with the bounce, yeah.
yeah, with 30 yards, I think I could do it.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Who would? What's the thing? Kick, punt, and pass. What is it?
Pump pass kick.
Punt, pass, kick.
I
Punt,
think
pass,
so, yeah.
catch.
Pump pass kick.
So you gotta punt it and kick it.
Isn't it throw? Isn't one of them
You're talking
throw?
about like
pass,
the Andy,
right?
like,
Yeah.
like that competition
Is
Andy
that
Reid
punt,
was in
pass,
years
and
ago.
kick?
I'm almost positive it's pump
Why
pass
would you
and
do
kick.
two special teams thing? Yeah,
I don't
punt, pass,
know.
and kick. Was
You question me and you look and then you realize that I was right.
Who would win a? Somebody asked me this the other day. Who would win a decathlon out of Al Scoop staff members?
A decathlon?
So I would say like the cardio stuff, Graham's gonna win, but he's just a weak little boy.
Aw.
Like I think I'm crushing him in discus.
Graham's going to be
and
editing this. And he's gonna get to
javelin
the end. He's gonna
throw
be like, oh,
and
man.
shot puts. Like I think I'm just destroying.
You know what kind of an athlete Sam is.
Yeah, Sam.
I ran track in high school.
There you go. So
There you
Sam's
go.
And I
got
play basketball.
Sam's a sneaker. He's a sleeper cell here. But like
I'm borderline lottery pick. Like, don't sleep on me.
borderline lottery pick.
Borderline lottery picks.
I'm just
Come
saying. I think I would destroy Graham in anything like physical, not like cardio physical. So
on. Decathlon's what?
10 events. It's
Yeah,
what
it's-
7 cardio and then and then javelin, shot put and discus. I thought like there's like hurdles. There's
I ran hurdles in high school.
well then Sam might win.
But I don't know. Javelin,
Javelin's tough.
you guys are probably stronger than I am.
Very strong.
Discus,
Damn
I know the
strength.
form, but I don't know how far I can get it.
You're trying throwing
Cardio,
javelin?
I think I do okay.
Have I
Javelin's
ever tried throwing
hard.
javelin? No.
That when I was covering, I didn't do it for a story, but covered track for 4 years at the Daily Journal down in Vineland. I loved it. There were so many good track athletes down there. And I was at a high school one day, and I was talking to one of the javelin throwers down there. I was like, this looks hard. He's like, it is hard to throw. Like, just to try to throw a javelin.
Yeah, there's a lot of mechanics to it.
Yes, you're like, and obviously I did not have the mechanics. You're just like, as you're letting it go, you're like, I hope that I'm not going to like sort of like stab myself in the face here when you're like, it's hard. It's really, really hard. Not that I would think it would look easy.
It's like a
but-
bow and arrow because you're supposed to bring it like across, like against your shoulder and across your face.
Okay, yeah, I know.
As
Yeah,
you
I do
throw.
that. I was imagining I was like chucking it like a grenade. Just like, and there it goes.
Nah.
Directly into like a pole vault.
So I'd
Pole
say
vaulter
Sam-
is one of the decathlon things.
Whoa,
Oh, God,
pole
we were-
vaulting's tough too. I have not tried pole. Did you ever try pole vaulting?
I tried it, but I never actually competed in it. My friend did it in high school, so like I would just kind of mess around and practice and try it. You have to be strong for pole vaulting. That's all upper body strength.
Do they make you wear helmets for pole vaulting now?
No.
You're going on to a big pad.
Yeah, but you could literally fall back on the
Yeah,
track.
you get hit by a
sometimes.
bus tomorrow. Live a little. You see the video?
It
Of
is
the
a-
buck,
it is a
the buck
dangerous
jumping
one.
into the hair salon. Do you see that going viral?
No.
It's this like Long Island hair salon. This woman's cutting this guy's hair, and all of a sudden you see this like buck jump through the window. And it's like smashing and
In
thrashing.
Long Island?
It misses like impaling a woman by like 6 inches.
And the
Like,
caption is Giannis Antetokounmpo on the Eastern Conference this year.
Joel Embiid might have something to do with
Yeah.
that. But
What a closeout to the show. We've discovered that Sam Just a few weeks in, we'll probably win an Al Scoop.
I think I
Decathlon.
Decathlon. I think I could win like anything involving like eating like a T-bone steak in a certain amount of time.
The old 96.
I think I could do that. Or like the old Mac and Mankos thing where it's like, who could eat this pizza in under an hour? I could eat that pizza.
You're probably way too young for it. Did you ever see The Great Outdoors?
No.
Dan Aykroyd, John Candy. Our older listeners will love this. Late 80s movie. Dan Aykroyd,
Uncle
John
Buck.
Candy. Along those lines. John Candy's family, that every year they go to like this lakeside vacation. Dan Aykroyd is his brother-in-law. He's like this big financial guy. Finds out that he's like scamming people out of money, but like they make up at the end. They go to this restaurant and they're ordering food, and John Candy says, "What's the old 96er? It's a 96-ounce cut of steak." And they say nobody has ever finished it. Nobody's finished it in years, and if you finish it, the whole table eats for free, and then hilarity ensues because John Candy finishes it. So,
yeah, I don't think
You
I would
guys
eat
don't
the
care.
full 96, but I think I would. I'd win any competition based around the culinary arts.
well, I'll make a reference that you guys get next time.
Yeah, try to keep it from like 1998 on.
What year were you born, Sam?
1999.
There we go. Y2K he wasn't even aware.
No.
The whole world was going crazy. What were the computers going to do?
I turned 20 very soon.
You're
Kind of.
that young, Sam?
Yeah, I'm almost
Jesus.
20.
Jesus.
Whole life's ahead.
He
of
told
you.
me 1999 didn't even process to me. They're like, oh, yeah, that means he's 19 years old. I had no idea.
I'm actually older than Zion Williamson. So I'm at the age where it's like guys are getting drafted that are younger than me, and it just makes me feel
Yeah, that's long blown by me. I used to feel the same way. Like, oh, yeah, that guy's Bob. Like, oh, yeah, I'm similar. No. They're all so much younger. Ronald Acuna is so much younger than me. Oh, well. We'll talk to you guys next week.
All right, thanks for sticking with us. Thank you all for listening, submitting mailbag questions. Big thank you to Quinton Rose for joining us on The Scoop this week. We will talk to you guys next week.